Hello listeners, this video discusses George Orwell's Animal Farm. George Orwell is the pen name of Eric Arthur Blair. He was born in the year 1903 and died in the year 1950. He was an English novelist, essayist, journalist, and critic. The characteristics of his works include social criticism, opposition to totalitarianism, and he supports democratic socialism. Orwell is famous for literary criticism, poetry, fiction. He is known for his popular allegory, Animal Farm, which he published in the year 1945, his dystopian novel, 1984, which he published in 1947. This is a social science fiction novel. His non-fiction works include The Road to Vian Pier in the year 1937. This work documents his experiences of working class life in the industrial north of England. His work Homage to Catalonia in the year 1938. This book documents his experiences solidifying for the Republican fiction of the Spanish Civil War between 1938 to 1939. His essays has the essence of politics, literature, language, and culture. His works remain influential in popular culture and in political culture. His works are also mentioned and referred as Orwellian, which describes totalitarian and authoritarian social practices. The word Orwellian is referred to be adjective. So Orwellian is taken from his name, that is his pen name George Orwell. The word Orwellian is referred as in usage, similar to the words Big Brother, Thought Police, Newspeak, and the like. In the year 2008, the Times newspaper ranked George Orwell as the second among the 50 greatest Britain writers since 1945. Orwell was born in India and he raised and educated in England. Let us see an overview of the novel Animal Farm. This is a beast fable. Fable will generally consist of short story or a poem. Here in this Animal Farm, here there is a story in which animals talk. The novel is structured in the form of satirical allegorical novella. It was first published in England on 17 August 1945. The novel tells the story of a group of farm animals that rebel against their human farmer. So the animals in the farmland, it hopes to create a society where the animals can be equal, free, and happy. However, the rebellion of the animals in the farm are betrayed, and the farm ends up in a state as bad as it was before under the dictatorship of a pig named Nepolean. According to the author George Orwell, this novel Animal Farm, it reflects the events that leads to Russian Revolution in the year 1917, and then it moves to Stalinist era of the Soviet Union. Stalinist era is referred to cover the period in Soviet history that was after the victory in the Second World War and referring to the death of Joseph Stalin in the year 1953. In general, the writer Orwell, he supports political democracy. He was a critique of Joseph Stalin, who was the reason for Spanish Civil War. In several occasions, Orwell described this tale Animal Farm as a satirical tale which was against Stalin. And in the essay Why I Write in the year 1946, he wrote that Animal Farm was the first book in which he tried with full consciousness of what he was doing. As a whole, the tale has political and artistic purpose. The original title of this tale is Animal Farm, a fairy story. Orwell wrote this tale between 1943 and 1944. That was during when United Kingdom was with its wartime alliance with Soviet Union against Nazi Germany. During this time, most of the British intellectuals had a high esteem over Joseph Stalin. This phenomena is hated by George Orwell. Time magazine chose this book, Animal Farm, as one of its 100 best English language novels between the years 1923 to 2005. And this book was featured at number 31 on the Modern Library list of best 20th century novels and in 46th number on the BBC's The Big Read poll. Let us see the characters of the novel. Nepoleon. Nepoleon is a primary antagonist of the novel. It is a big pig. This accompanies Snowball. Both Napoleon the pig and Snowball are the disciples of Old Major. They together develop the ideology of animalism. Snowball is a friend and a companion of Napoleon. They both together developed the theory of animalism from the ideas of Old Major's speech. Boxer. Boxer is a huge, gentle cart horse. Cart horse is a large, strong horse which is suitable for heavy work. Benjamin. Benjamin is a donkey with a skeptical view that life will always be difficult and painful. Squealer. Squealer is a fat pig who's a skilled orator. Old Major. Old Major is a reverend old boar. In the beginning of the novel, it gathers the animals together to speak to them about what's going wrong in the world. It dictates that humanity is the only true enemy. It says that humans use animals to procure profit. Specifically, it refers that humans are cruel, they have no feeling, and they abuse animals. Both Napoleon, the pig, and Snowball, they try to develop Old Major's speech and they create a theory of animalism. And soon after the death of Old Major, they try to bring out the theory in practice. Soon after Old Major's death, there was a revolution that takes place. Old Major symbolizes both Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, who were the fathers of communism. Clover. Clover is a gentle, motherly, and a powerful cart horse. Mr. Jones is the original owner of Manor Farm. He was once a strict and fierce master. Just before the story began, Mr. Jones became a drunkard. He became careless and ineffective. Thereby, he became cruel and arrogant. Mr. Pillington, he is a gentleman farmer who owns Foxwood, one of Animal Farm's neighbors. Mr. Frederick, he is the owner of the neighboring farm of Pinchfield. He is also cruel and calculative. The cat. The cat is a self-serving, greedy cat in the farm. Molly. Molly is a white horse. The sheep. The sheep is the least intelligent animals on Animal Farm. There are unintelligent laying hens on the Animal Farm. Next is dogs. There are dogs named Jessie, Bluebell, Pincher, Muriel. Muriel is a white goat, one of the few animals who becomes fully literate. There are minor characters such as Moses. Moses is a tamed raven and Mr. Jones' special pet, Mr. Winepaw, Minipus. Mrs. Jones is Mr. Jones' wife. The story has 10 chapters. This video lecture will contain the whole summary of the story. The story starts with the Manor Farm, which is a small farm in England which is run by a harsh and drunkard Mr. Jones. One night, a boar named Old Major, it gathers all the animals of Manor Farm together. As the boar is aware that he will soon die, he gives a speech in which he reveals that men cause all the mystery to animals. It says that all animals must come together and rebel against the humans by asking equality and freedom. The board teaches the animals a revolutionary song called Beasts of England. As the old major soon dies, the two pigs named Snowball and Napoleon, they try to extract the philosophy of animalism from the speech of old major. They try to spread animalism ideals to the other animals in the farm. Among all the animals in the animal form, the catharsis, boxer, and cover proved to be the best disciples of Snowball and Napoleon. When this was going on, perfectly 3 months later, Mr. Jones neglects to feed his animals for over 24 hours. The hunger animals, they revolt and chase Mr. Jones. As Mr. Jones escapes, the animals promptly burn all the items that belongs to Mr. Jones, such as whips, bits, and knives. On the next day, the animals toured the entire farm, and the pigs revealed that over the last few months, they were taught themselves to read. Snowball becomes the best at writing, and with a white paint, it draws and paints the farm's gate as animal form. On the big barn, the Snowball also writes the tenets of animalism, writes the 7 commandments instilled by Napoleon. The commandment states that all animals are equal and no animal may act like a human by sleeping in bed, walking on two legs, killing other animals, or drinking alcohol. One commandment says that humans are the only enemies. The animals figure out the hay harvest, and the pigs also figure out on how to milk the cows, but the milk begins to disappear. The animals think that they are succeeded by the absence of humans, especially Mr. Jones. They find enough food, and the animals take pride in being able to feed themselves with their own labor. The pigs get clever enough to figure out on how to perform certain tasks without standing on two legs. Boxer, the cart horse, it seems to be strong and adopts the motto, I will work harder. All the animals work hard to run the farm except the vain horse Molly. Molly takes many excuses of why she can't work. Benjamin the donkey, it does not care about anything and just says the donkeys live a long time. Days later, Snowball organizes a committee for the animals, similar to a review meet. It says the success in teaching animals on how to read. Altogether, the dogs, the pigs, the goat Muriel, and Benjamin are the only ones who become fully literate. The less intelligent animals, such as the sheep, remain learning only one alphabet A. Those sheep fail to learn the 7 commandments. The Snowball on the review meet, it categorizes the animals into successful and unsuccessful. That is to be said as 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Meanwhile, Napoleon takes hold of 9 puppies to train them to read. It insists that the young ones would fully focus on learning. Soon after this, there was a fight for power between Snowball and Napoleon. Both Snowball and Napoleon, they sent out a pigeon to the neighboring farms to spread the word to the other animals. By this time, the neighboring farm holders such as Mr. Pillington of Floxwood and Mr. Frederick of Pinchfield, they are much disturbed and terrified of what happened at Animal Farm that belonged to Mr. Jones. Both Pilkington and Mr. Frederick hate each other. In the following days in October, Mr. Jones, he invades the farm with his gun. The animals stood together bravely and sent Mr. Jones away. Boxer gets distraught because he killed a boy. Soon after, Snowball gives a speech about the importance of dying for animal form. During the winter, Molly disappears to serve a man in town, and at this time, the pigs argue about a plan of the coming season and the rivalry existing between Snowball and Napoleon. Because Snowball had given an idea to build a windmill, Snowball intelligently convinces that a windmill would give them electricity and ensure that they only have to work 3 days per week. Contrary to Snowball's statement, Napoleon quietly insists that this idea of creating a windmill is nonsense. At the final debate about windmill, Napoleon summons the puppies, whom he secretly reared in order to become his servants. Using the puppies, he wants to chase Snowball from Animal Farm. Also, he declares to the other animals that Snowball was a bad influence, and that is his idea of eliminating the animals, and takes the burden of leadership on himself. Napoleon sends a pig named Squealer in order to persuade other animals of how Napoleon is good by heart. 3 weeks later, Napoleon himself decides to build a windmill. He also says that Snowball has stolen his plan of making a windmill. At this point, Snowball is not here in this animal form. He is driven out. The animals are now set to work with Boxer leading. As Napoleon focuses on producing a windmill, all the animals have less to eat. Napoleon insists the animals to work every day, even on Sundays. Animals that fail to work would not receive rations. The pigs recruit an advisor named Mr. Wimper to get advice of trading with other farms. They also move into Mr. Jones' farmhouse in order to start sleeping in beds. This act confuses Clover. Clover is a motherly and powerful Carthage. She says that it is forbidden to sleep on beds just like humans. She asks Muriel to read the commandment about beds. So the commandment says, no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheep. In order to subside the questioning of Clover, Squealer accompanied by dogs, it says that if the pigs don't get enough sleep, then Mr. Jones will return. That winter, a storm destroys the partially completed windmill. Napoleon blames that the catastrophe is due to the traitor Snowball. He also says that Snowball is hiding out at Foxwood. Napoleon then says that the farm doesn't have enough food. During the month January, it tells that the hens would be agreed to trade 400 eggs per week. Hearing this, the hens become distraught because they only produce spring chicks. The hens begin to revolt and Napoleon cuts their rations, and in the next few days, 9 hens die. Napoleon circulates the news saying that the hens died of disease. Napoleon blames Snowball for stealing the eggs and for killing the hens. One evening, Squealer says that Snowball is in league with Mr. Frederick and has been on Mr. Jones' side the whole time. 4 days later, Napoleon sets his dogs on 4 young pigs and Boxer during a meeting. The dogs kill everyone who conspired with Snowball. And after this, the remaining animals, they gather at the windmill, and Boxer says that this happened because they have done something wrong. Clover, with pain, she says that this wasn't the cause for their rebellion. She declares that this is better than living under Mr. Jones, than accepting Napoleon's leadership. She leads the other animals in a rout and declares them to sing the song Beasts of England. Squealer stops this and announces that the song is no longer valid. Mimimus the pig composes a new song, and after a few days, Clover remembers the 7 commandments of animals that states that animals should not be killed. When she insists Muriel to read the commandments on the barn, barn is a wall. The commandment reads like this, that animals can't kill each other without cause. The animals work harder and harder. Squealer, it figures out that the farm's productivity is up by 200 to 500%. Most of the time, Napoleon stays inside the farmhouse. He is guarded by dogs. When Mimimus composes a poem in Napoleon's honor, Napoleon says that his picture, that is his portrait, should be drawn on the barn. Napoleon also conversed with Mr. Frederick and Mr. Pillington on selling a timber. Now this increases tensions in the farm. Now that the Napoleon says that he will finish the work of windmill in fall, soon after Napoleon announces that he had sold this timber to Mr. Frederick after promising it to Mr. Pillington. Also informs that the money will buy the animals, the machinery for the windmill. Mr. Whymper, he reveals that Mr. Frederick had paid for the timber with forged banknotes. Mr. Frederick and his men arrive to the animal farm and blow up the windmill with their guns. All the animals rage against the men. In the following night, the pigs discover that the Napoleon is dying of drinking too much whiskey. The next morning, the commandment is to be read as that animals should not drink to excess. As Boxes approaches retirement, there were 31 piglets of Napoleon. They were all born in spring, and Napoleon thereby announces that they need to build a schoolhouse, and those institutions must have a rule that all animals must let pigs pass. At this time, Napoleon is unanimously voted to be the farm's president, and during the summer, Boxer collapses while working on the windmill, and Napoleon declares that a human veterinary doctor will treat Boxer. Few days later, the pigs come up with money to buy more whiskey. By and by, the days pass. Only few remaining animals have experienced the revolution. Even few of the animals just remember about their goals that they had when the rebellion started. They complete the first windmill and then began the second, but they could not work on the windmill because that windmill did not bring them electricity. The pigs then teach themselves to walk on two legs, then they begin to carry whips and teach the sheep to bleat. They say as 4 legs good, 2 legs better. When Clover and Benjamin check the 7 commandments, they see that the statement goes like this: all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. The pigs also make feast with other neighboring humans. Both Napoleon and Mr. Pillington, they cheat at cards and begin to fight. The themes of the story goes like this: totalitarianism. George Orwell was against totalitarianism, and that is the reason he wrote this story, because totalitarianism is a form of government which seeks to control every facet of life from economics and politics, also breaks each individual's ideas and beliefs. Revolution and corruption. At first, the animals in the farm believes that they would have a better future in which they can enjoy freedom and they can be away from the rule of humans. Class warfare, language as power. Hope this video helps. If you have query or suggestion, write it down below. Thank you for listening.